Hi, I'm Adam Hickin. I'm the Enterprise Solution Architect covering Cisco and Meraki for Ingram Micro. So my remit is to work with partners talking about Cisco Enterprise routing, switching, wireless and the entire Meraki product stack. I'm here with a couple of my colleagues today, which I'll allow to introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Alex. I'm a product sales specialist at Ingram Micro, covering exclusively Cisco Meraki.
Hi, I'm Mike, and I'll do the same as what Alex does.
And based on their job titles and mine, you can probably guess we're here to talk about Cisco Meraki today. What I'll do is I'll give you a brief overview to who Cisco Meraki are, kind of where they've come from, the products they sell, and a couple of the answers to questions that I get asked a lot. And then what we'll do is hand over to Alex and Mike, and they can ask me some of the questions they get asked a lot, and hopefully give some definitive answers. So, for those of you who don't know who Meraki are, they started off around about 2003 and were inspired by a project at MIT in America called RoofNet. Now, RoofNet was a wireless network designed to cover the whole university with wireless coverage. Nothing particularly earth-shattering there. What was different was two key concepts the guys that kind of started Meraki came up with. So the first concept was this idea of the access points all meshing with each other. So if you think about a traditional wireless access point or a traditional network device, you plug the wireless access point into a switch and that's how it connects to the internet, and any clients connect to it connect to the internet as well. What Meraki decided was to build a self-healing network. So in the event that hardwire gets cut, what an access point can do is it can contact other wireless access points in the same network and route clients across that other access points network as well. So as I said, it gives that concept of a self-healing network. The other concept that came with it, which was pretty innovative, was this concept of a central cloud-based controller. So rather than you configuring individual access points, you go to a central control point and configure all your settings, look at anything that's going on, all from that single control point. So 17, 18 years ago, 2003 time, those are both pretty innovative. It was obviously a fairly successful project because 2006 Meraki the company was born, and 2012 Cisco got interested and bought Meraki and they became Cisco Meraki, which is their new official title. While Cisco Meraki is their proper name, I refer to them as Meraki because those couple of syllables do add up over the course of one of these talks. From that kind of wireless start, Meraki have gone from strength to strength. So as well as having wireless access points, they've added MX security appliances, MS switches, MT industrial sensors, MG gateways, MV cameras, and various software packages to help you manage endpoint devices and troubleshoot issues on the networks you may have. Meraki's kind of key selling point from day one has been about simplicity. Their aim is to actually simplify everything. The view is that if you make things easy for IT operations staff, it gives them more time to get on with doing things that are important, developing the business goals rather than just fixing things. Now, a key underpinning of this simplicity is the Meraki dashboard. Now, the Meraki dashboard is the central control point for every single Meraki device, be it a wireless access point, a firewall, or a camera. Through dashboard, you do all your configuration, all of your monitoring, all of your troubleshooting. It's a one-stop shop. Really, really powerful. The thing about dashboard is you don't need to install it. There's no hardware controller, there's no software you need to install, configure or manage. The entire thing is hosted in the Meraki cloud, which is out on the internet. So the sum total of the hardware you need to manage your Meraki devices is an internet connected device. That's it. Now, this leads on to the first question I get asked quite a lot. Now, if all of these devices are being controlled through the cloud, is all of my traffic going through the cloud as well? If I go to Facebook, can Meraki see what I've been looking at on Facebook? And the answer to that is no, you can't. So when a Meraki device comes online, the first thing it does is it builds a tunnel back to the cloud itself. Checks if it's owned by anybody. If it is, looks in dashboard, downloads the configuration, downloads the firmware, and reboots. And that takes about 5 minutes. Once it's done all of that, it'll start talking to the dashboard and uploading telemetry. So it'll go about things like the number of users connected, number of devices connected, the resources they're accessing. But the only traffic that goes to Meraki dashboard and the Meraki cloud is that management traffic. All your user traffic routes across the network in exactly the same way as any other organisation, so straight out as it would anywhere else. So secure, you don't need to worry about that. The next common question we get that follows on from that is, what happens if dashboard is down, or if I lose my internet connection? Do all of my devices stop working? And again, the short answer is no, they don't. Dashboard is just a controller. Your devices don't need to be connected to dashboard to work. They'll carry on working with their previous configuration. They'll carry on storing that telemetry, and at the point at which the internet connection is restored or dashboard comes back online, it'll carry on working, report up, and reconfigure itself as required before. So there's no issue to that whatsoever. The last common question I get a lot is to do with how is Meraki licensed. So Meraki comes with a lot of features, a lot of power, and all that power is unlocked by a license. So licensing is fairly simple to understand. The simple rule is for every Meraki device you have to have a license. It's a one-to-one relationship. So if you want one switch, you need one switch license. You want 1,000 switches, you need 1,000 switch licenses. It's pretty straightforward, to be honest. Certain devices, the licenses are model dependent, and certain devices are not. So if you're looking at Meraki access points, for example, one license covers every single access point. So if you've got an MR36 or an MR52, it doesn't matter, it's the same access point. It's different for the switches and the MX firewalls. Those, the licenses are actually model specific. There's actually two different types of licensing in Meraki as well. There's one called co-termination and one called per device licensing. Now, co-termination is the default. It's what you get when you set a Meraki organisation up. And with co-termination, they've tried to keep licensing really easy and renewing licenses really easy. So every single device you have, no matter when it's bought, with co-termination will expire on the same day. So if you buy 10 devices today with a 1-year licence, and in 6 months' time you buy another 10 devices with a 1-year licence, what will happen is the new devices you've bought and the old licenses you already have, their licenses will kind of aggregate together and give you a new expiry date. So if you've got a year down to 6 months, you had a new year, you might find all your devices get around 9 months left. There's a little calculator on the Meraki side that shows you what will actually happen if you change the licenses. So very nice and simple. Administrators have one date they need to keep an eye on. Now, for some people, that doesn't really work very well. Could be an MSP, and you want to have lots of different lots of different companies under your organisational banner. That can cause issues because if you apply a licence to one company, it influences every other company under your organisation as well. So what Meraki have done is created something called per device licensing. And per device licensing is, as the name suggests, the licence is per device. Gives you the option of different terms on different devices, different types of license, different devices. And yeah, there's a few other benefits as well, but I'm fairly certain one of my colleagues will ask me about those because I know they're questions they ask me on a regular basis, so I'll talk about that in more depth then. That's kind of it from me in terms of the questions that I get asked. Lots of other questions come through that aren't regular about things like what does cloud controlled mean? What's the benefits of cloud controlled? And again, I'm sure we'll come on to those at some point in the next few minutes. So I'll hand over to my colleagues now to grill me and hope I know the answer to their questions.
Yeah, so one of the main questions we do get is where is Meraki's data center in EMEA?
Okay, well, Meraki don't have an EMEA data center as such. What Meraki do is they've broken the world into a bunch of regions. So there's currently 4 regions. There's the Americas, so North and South America. There is Asia, there is Europe, and there is China. So in Europe, there's 2 data centers at the moment. They're in Frankfurt and Munich, I believe. America, they're in California and Dallas. China, they're both in China, I'm not entirely certain where. Asia, it's Sydney and Singapore. Now, the thing with the data centres is they're highly available data centres, so each region has at least 2 data centres. There's 2 in Germany. Those data centres work in active configuration. So when you set an organisation up, you get to kind of choose which area you want your data to be hosted in. So if you're an organisation that has some kind of regulatory compliance issues and you have to have your data hosted in the States, you can do that. It doesn't actually matter where in the world your company is, you get to choose that. I mean, Meraki are one of the few organisations that allow you to make that choice. So your data will be hosted in one of those data centres and be replicated to other data centres in the same region. And the data centres themselves are ridiculously secure. There's all kind of things that Meraki do to make them secure in terms of access to the data centres physically, logical access to the data centres. The data centres themselves are penetration tested by third parties on a daily basis to keep those data centres secure. Meraki take it very, very seriously. But yeah, very long answer, very short question. Germany, for Europe, to be honest.
Thank you.
So we could keep it short, but yeah, why not? I'll give you more information.
Another one we get asked quite a lot. You talked about it earlier, but from a partner's point of view, do they have to buy more licenses every time they buy new hardware?
No. No, is a short answer to that one. No, again, as I said, I talk about licensing. The licensing, it's a one-to-one relationship. So if you've got 100 MR access point license, for example, but only 50 MR access points, you can buy another 50 MR access points without buying a new license. And that's the same across the entire range. With Systems Manager, for example, it's done on the number of endpoints. So if you've got 100 Systems Manager licenses and only 95 managed devices, you can add 5 more devices fairly easily. Makes upgrades quite easy on access points in particular. So if you're going from an old Wi-Fi 5, like an MR33 or something, and you want to put in a new MR36, which is the Wi-Fi 6 version of it, just take one out, put one in, the licensing matches up because it's the numbers that matter. It's a bit more in depth when you start talking about the switches and the MX firewalls, because those are model specific. So if you've got an MS250, for example, a 48 port PoE MS250, that license can only be assigned to another 48 port Power over Ethernet MS250. But again, if you've somehow or another managed to buy 5 licenses and you only needed 4, you could now buy another switch and add that into your organisation or your network without buying an additional license.
Yep.
That's good, thank you. We also get asked, where is Meraki kit shipping from in EMEA?
Amsterdam.
Can I purchase a new license for a used piece of hardware purchased on the secondary market?
You can, but in the words of Ian Malcolm in Jurassic Park, what you can do and what you should do are 2 very different things. I mean, yeah, Meraki will sell you a license independent of any hardware. If you want to buy hardware on the secondary market, what you should do is check with Meraki support first to make sure it's not been reported stolen. Meraki will not license hardware that they've been told is stolen. So if you go and buy that piece of hardware from eBay, for example, and you then try to buy the license and Meraki regard that as a stolen device, what you've just bought is an oversized and overcost paperweight. So yes, you can check with support first.
Also, when does the license start burning?
That depends on which license version you're running. So with co-termination, because the way co-termination works, having a single end device, a co-termination license starts burning basically when the device is shipped, so at order effectively. With per device licensing, because it's multiple endpoints, you get the license starts burning one of 2 situations. So the first situation is you've got your license, you've got a device, and you assign that license to a device. Obviously that device is now active, the license starts burning at that date. The other situation will be if you've got a pool of licenses that are sat in your organisation unused, 90 days after purchase, that license will start burning. So if you've got a large deployment and you've bought a lot of kit and it's taking you a few days to deploy, with your per device licensing, if it takes you, say, 45 days before you start putting devices out, your license will start burning on that 45th day. So you get that period of grace at the start effectively. If it takes you 100 days before you start putting the kit out, you've used 10 days of your license because they started burning on that 90th day. So it's one of those considerations when you're looking at co-termination versus PDL, what you're actually doing.
Yep, and does the MX support high availability configurations?
Short answer, yes.
Brilliant.
Slightly longer answer, yes it does. There are some constraints. Both MXs have to be the same model, so you can't pair, say, an MX67 and an MX250. They're both the same model. Meraki's only support active-passive with HA. There's no active-active with Meraki's, which actually is a useful thing because you only need a license for an active device with Meraki. So in a HA environment, you only need one MX license for both MXs because one is never working. So
that's great, yeah. So can you also have an MX Advanced Security with an MX Enterprise in the same organization?
No.
Okay.
Basically. No. Within any organisation, all MXs have to be at the same license level, whether it's Enterprise, Advanced Security or Secure SD-WAN. That's just a non-negotiable.
And will a partner be notified before the licenses expire?
Yes. Yes, you get an email about 30 days before. You also actually get notified in dashboard itself, that central control pane, so you'll start seeing a yellow band at the top telling you your licenses are due to expire. About a week before the license expire, the administrators, and this is all administrators who are listed as against that organisation, will get another email telling their time is coming close to do something about it. On the expiration date itself, you'll get another email saying you're now out of licensing, and the warning in dashboard turns red. Interest at this point, nothing actually changes in terms of the operation of the dashboard and the operation of your Meraki appliances. They'll carry on working for 30 days. You get 30 days of grace in case you've just ignored them for some reason. At the end of 30 days, any unlicensed devices will stop working. And this is another interesting difference between per device and co-termination licensing. So with Meraki, dashboard is a hierarchical organisation. So at the top you have an organisation, an organisation contains networks, networks contain devices. So all administration and licensing is organisational level. So if your organisation is co-termination, you have one date for your entire organisation. So if you're a global organisation with 50 networks across the globe and your licences go, that's every single device is now out of licence. So 30 days after your expiry date, your whole organisation shuts down on Meraki. Per device, bit less. It's the individual devices. So 50 devices expire, they'll stop working, everything else will carry on working. It's kind of one of the benefits of PDL over co-term.
Yeah, that's good. So we also get a question about the Meraki Systems Manager, the MDM solution. What platforms does it support?
I mean, my normal answer to this question is what platform would you like it to support, because the chances are it probably does support it. So MDM, Meraki Systems Manager, currently supports most modern versions of Windows. So I think version 7 onwards and 2 or 3 of the server, I think server 2012 onwards. It supports macOS, it supports Apple iOS, it supports Android, it supports Chrome OS, and for some bizarre reason it also supports Apple TVs. I've never seen it used on Apple TV, but if you want to put an MDM solution onto Apple TV, you can do with Meraki Systems Manager.
And in terms of warranty, what warranty comes with the Meraki hardware?
That depends on which piece of hardware it is. So Meraki really stand behind their products, and this is something else that comes with the licensing as well. The vast majority of Meraki hardware comes, they call it a limited lifetime warranty. So they'll warranty the hardware until the hardware is out of support, which is usually kind of 5 years after the end of sale date. So for example, the MR33s, which is on the Wi-Fi 5 access points, their end of sale date was announced in January. The actual end of sale date was July this year. They're going to carry on being supported until 2026. So that's kind of their lifetime. So the vast majority of hardware has that lifetime warranty. As long as it's licensed, Meraki will replace it for you free of charge if it's proven to have broken, which is a really good thing about Meraki and their licensing. You've then got the cameras and the external access point have a different license period. I think the external access points is, I think it's 1 year, and the cameras I think is 3 years. Apart from a couple of the cameras, there's different versions of cameras have slightly different warranties. So all the Gen 2 cameras I think get 3 years. The older cameras I think only get 1 year, and the MV2 only gets 1 year as well.
Yeah. So we also get a question about SD1 and what type of license do you need on your MX to have SD1 functionality? Okay,
this is a common one actually. I probably should have covered at the top. So the MXs have 3 different license tiers. So there's Enterprise, which is a bog standard license. There is Advanced Security, which adds some additional security features, and Secure SD-WAN Plus. Now it's a common misconception that because the license is called Secure SD-WAN Plus, you need that for SD-WAN. You don't. So SD-WAN is covered in all 3 of the Meraki licenses. So Enterprise, Advanced, and Secure SD-WAN Plus. It doesn't matter. Also, all Meraki MXs are SD-WAN capable. Kind of one of the key things about SD-WAN is you need multiple WAN connections. And if you look at some of the smaller boxes, things like the MX67s and the MX68s, they only have one WAN connection on them. So people sometimes assume they have to have a bigger box to an SD-WAN. With those smaller boxes, what you can do is convert one of the LAN ports to be a WAN port, and then you have dual WAN, and off you go with your SD-WAN.
And what is the difference between virtual stacking and physical stacking on the MS range?
I hate this question. Virtual stacking is one of those things that is far easier to show than to tell about. So physical stacking, most people who've worked with switches, be they Cisco, Meraki, HP Aruba, will have come across the concept of physically stacking switches. So that's where you put a collection of switches, you plug them all together somehow or another, and you tell them they're now all one big switch. So 8 switches, you get one management plane. So it's simplification management. So rather than 2 24-port switches, you get one 48-port switch. And Merakis can do that as well. I think from the MS2 2X range up, they support stacking, physical stacking on configuration. What Meraki have also got is a concept of virtual stacking. Because the way dashboard works, you can, inside a network you've created, you can see every single switch in that network, no matter where it is in the world, in one view. You can also see every single switch port in that network in one view. And what you can do is you can select multiple switch ports. It's a tick box. Down the side of the little boxes, you put a tick in the box, then click edit, and all the boxes you've ticked will get edited. So if you wanted to change the VLAN, change spanning tree, change the native VLAN, all those kind of things, you can bulk configure all those ports in one go. Now that sounds really useful, and it is really useful. Where it becomes even more useful is when you start applying what Meraki calls tags. Now a tag it's just that, it's a tag. You can tag ports on a switch. So I could, for example, tag all the ports in this room with boardroom. I could tag all the ports across Ingram's entire global estate with boardroom that were in boardrooms, I felt like it, and the dashboard was set up that way. What I can then do is I can search for all ports that have that tag and configure all those ports simultaneously, no matter where they are in the world. So that's virtual stacking. It's a really good feature, not a fan of the name of it.
Thank you, that's all the questions that we've got.
Yeah, that's pretty much everything we normally get asked. If we do get any more, we'll definitely come to you.
There is one other question I sometimes get asked that I probably should have covered at the top of this, which is about cloud controlled. It's kind of, when we talk about cloud networking, what do we actually mean? Because lots of people kind of go, well, Azure, AWS, Google Cloud, we kind of get the resource is in the cloud itself, our storage, our compute, whatever it happens to be, is actually in the cloud somewhere. Obviously, I can't put the network switch in the cloud when it's on my site. So what we talk about, we say cloud. What we're talking about is cloud managed. So as I said before, Meraki has this dashboard, which is a central repository for all configuration, management and maintenance operations of Meraki kit. That is what is in the cloud, not the actual kit itself. So the kit all connects to the cloud. You don't ever need to put your hands on the equipment. You can configure dashboard, you can configure devices that aren't turned on, you don't even own yet. You can apply the configuration in the cloud. You can post the device wherever it needs to be in the world. When it plugs in and gets turned on, it'll boot up, download its configuration and start working. It really is true zero-touch provisioning. And there are certain advantages to that kind of cloud-managed environments. Scalability is one. By definition, cloud environments are scalable. They kind of grow or shrink to suit the needs you've got. So with the Meraki dashboard, if you're a small organisation, you want one access point, fine. Dashboard will scale your organisation to one access point. You want 1,000 access points, 10,000 access points and 5,000 switches, knock yourself out. The cloud will scale to that size for you automatically. You don't need to do anything, it just happens as you place the orders. It's also really reliable because you've got no on-site controller to worry about, no worry about power getting to it, its network connection. It just sits in the cloud and continues to work. I mean, Meraki actually offer a 99.99% uptime availability of the dashboard, and in the 6 years I've been working with Meraki kit now, I can't ever remember a dashboard actually being down. It's really, really reliable. We talked earlier about security as well. You just get that. Meraki makes sure that data center is secure, make sure your data, management data, is secure in the cloud. The last kind of thing we haven't really talked about that is a benefit of this cloud system and ties in with the Meraki licensing is the future-proofing of it. Now, said before, Meraki stand behind their products. They like their products, they think their products are good. It's really important to Meraki that a product you buy now carries on having value over its lifetime. So what Meraki do is they bring new features out. They make sure that all those new features are backwards compatible with previous generations of hardware. So you buy an MX now, it's got SD-WAN on it. 5 years ago, they didn't have SD-WAN. I think 2016 SD-WAN came out. As soon as Meraki bought that new SD-WAN software out, that was released to all existing customers free of charge, just through a firmware upgrade. Now your license includes free access to firmware upgrades, security updates, and Meraki support for the lifetime of that license. So that, allied to that kind of hardware warranty we talked about, means there's no additional costs. You buy a Meraki piece of hardware, you buy a Meraki license, and for the lifetime of that license, you get free hardware repairs, free software upgrades, new features of life for free, and security patches for free. It's a really, really good system. Well, I think that's done. I think if you've got any more questions, anything else you want to add, anything I've said has provoked a new question in your mind?
No, that's everything. I think, with our partners, if they've got any questions, then feel free to reach out to Alex and I and Adam if it's more technical.
Go to Alex and Mike first.